This is the Bavaria SR41, a boat that was launched at the 2020 Dusseldorf Boat Show. And Bavaria says it combines the best of its sporty S-line range with its more upmarket R-line range. Now, pricing for this boat, the standard boat comes with a pair of 350 horsepower Mercruiser petrels, and that boat is £250,000 including VAT. This particular boat here has got a pair of Volvo Penta D6 380 diesels, and the base boat with those engines is £313,000, but this particular one, which has got £100,000 worth of extras on it, which we'll have a closer look at later, it's £434,000 including VAT. Bavaria's hardtop motorboats can sometimes look a little bit ungainly, but I think they've done a good job with updating this model. It's got this nice sleek window line here. They've also lowered the roof line as well, so it doesn't look quite as top heavy, but this is all subjective. What do you think? Tell me what you think about the looks in the comments below, and tell me what you think is the best looking 40-foot sports cruiser. Before we get into what it's like on board, I think we should see what it's like behind the helm. Now, the hull of this boat is actually based on the boat's predecessor, the S41, and that's no bad thing. It's a well proven hull, but of course with this model you get Volvo's latest range of D-series engines. In fact, the starting engine on the base boat is a pair of 350 horsepower Mercury petrels. You also have a pair of Volvo Penta petrels, but the most popular options will be the 300 and 380 horsepower diesels from Volvo. This boat's got the larger of those two options, so twin 380 horsepower on stern drives, and we actually achieved a top speed today of 37 knots, which, when you think that this isn't an out-and-out sports boat, it's a family sports cruiser, being able to achieve nearly 40 knots flat out is pretty good going. And it means that you cruise really comfortably at around 3,000 RPM, which gives you 27 knots for a range of around 200 miles. So really good, capable cruising speed there. The only slight fly in the ointment at that speed is it's a little bit noisy, around 85 decibels. So you do have to raise your voice to talk to people sitting around you. It's part and parcel of having an open boat. Obviously there's quite a lot of fiberglass overhead as well, so it becomes a bit of an echo chamber. Nothing too painful, just something to be aware of. But the really nice surprise is the way this boat handles. It's got lovely steering. It's not artificially light, but it's light enough that you can really swing the boat from side to side nice and quickly. It reacts really well to the helm. There's lots of grip on offer as well, as you'd expect from a pair of twin stern drives. And because you have the biggest engines on this boat, there's loads of power to get you out the hole, and if you're in big troughs, for example, plenty of them to get you up the back of waves. We haven't had particularly challenging conditions today in the Solent, but any chop or wash that's come our way, the hull has dealt with aplomb. And what about the actual driving environment? Well, the first thing to notice is that you have a huge sunroof, so you can open it up like we've got right now, and you get lots and lots of sunlight coming down onto the helm here. Obviously lots of glass around here as well, so it's bright anyway, so if you want to close the roof and have some shelter, there's still plenty of natural light allowed in. Driving position's really good. You know, there's not much adjustment on this seat. It has got a bolster, but the position's really good for me as someone of 6 foot, and you've got a footrest. You've also got a drop down step, so you can stand and poke your head over through the sunroof if you want to. Everything falls to hand nice and naturally. I've got the throttles nice and close. This wheel is adjustable, so if you're standing you can move it up and out the way, but equally you can bring it down like this so it's nice and close to you. These are optional upgraded 9-inch Simrads glass bridge, as you can see. Looks really slick. Some people may think they're a little bit small, want something a little bit larger, but Bavaria wanted to avoid this pod blocking your view, which it doesn't. It's nice and contained. You might want to angle this screen towards you because it's a little bit difficult to see the engine dials because they're flush mounted. If you're standing it's fine, but sitting from this position you have to crane forward. And although these are hybrid touchscreens, you have also got a proper control panel down here under your right hand, so you don't have to lean forward to use the chart plotters. There's a lot of dashboard here, but it's dark, so it means that you don't get reflected sunlight dancing around in your eye line. The windscreen is quite a long way away. You feel like you sit a long way back on this boat, and that means that the view can be compromised, certainly when you're getting up onto the plane. It doesn't help that we've got the cushions up front, and the headrests do get in the way as well, so most skippers will have to stand as the boat gets over the hump, but then once it does, it levels off nicely. You want to engage a little bit of trim tab, about 50% tab. The view forward is absolutely fine, and because there's so much adjustment and you can stand down and sit, you'll always find a comfortable way to sit and have a nice clear view forward. That's what it's like to drive. Let's have a closer look on board. Now, one of the options this boat has got is the hydraulic bathing platform, so this lowers down into the water to give you excellent access to the sea. Of course, it's a great way of recovering and launching the tender as well. And you can't help but notice the major change in deck configuration over the S41, which is that you have this little dinette here out aft, facing back out to sea. I think it's a really nice position. This table does drop down and there's a cushion that infills, so you can have a more traditional setup with a sunpad here if you want. This is a two-way backrest to give you more space to do that. But I think in nice weather like this, the kids are having a swim, you've got the bathing platform down, you're having a drink, sat facing out without the protection of the hardtop, which you may not want if it's not the middle of the day. I think this is a really nice position. It's quite a unique configuration within the sector as well. And once you move inside the cockpit, it feels a bit more formulaic. Of course, this flips back the other way, so you have seating along this bench here. The table, of course, opens out, and the whole mechanism slides. Obviously, it's too close at the moment, but the whole thing will slide that way so that you can fit people all the way around with the table at its full extension. But you can move it like this. This is sort of what you'll have it like day to day, because it's smaller. It means you've got grab handles exposed and you've got cup holders on both sides. Opposite, you have the wet bar. You know, try to liven it up a bit by putting a little bit of teak on top. You know, there isn't too much bare plastic in this cockpit like there would have been in a Bavaria of old. There's some, but they've really tried hard to make it a bit more interesting inside here. Underneath, you have your grill, sink, and I like the fact that they have found a place for this to store. Acts as a bit of a splashback for the grill, so you don't get cooking juices all over the back of your helm seat. And we have the sink here. Bit of storage down this side, two really useful drawers actually, they're a good size, just to chuck stuff in up here. And then you have a fridge up here as well. Again, you know, they've gone for black doors, okay, they're fiberglass, but it's not just white GRP. They have tried to make it a bit more interesting. Lighting is good as well. This is all sort of bare plastic, but you've got spots up here, you've got spots down both sides, so at night you should have a good amount of illumination inside this cockpit. Have a repeater for the Fusion stereo system here. As you can see, the speakers are up here on either side. There's good deck storage back here as well. Now, it is a bit fiddly to get to it. You have to take both these cushions off and this rather heavy fiberglass lid, but once you do, you've got these great deep lockers with drains in them, perfect for chucking all of the boat's fenders in. You've got them on both sides. If I had a complaint, I'd rather you could use them just by lifting a lid in the cushions rather than having to take everything off. But it's a good space to have. If we continue forward, you find the helm station. Again, it's really clean. It's in dark material, so you don't get glare when the sun is shining. And it's really nice and clearly laid out. I like the fact that they've banked all of the switches here into separate lights, navigation systems. Easy to spot and find. You don't have to dive into digital menus to see them. Obviously, your anchor and roof controls are very easy to get to. And it sounds really simplistic, but very simple wiper controls. I can't tell you how complicated wipers can be on boats sometimes. You simply hit one to turn on each side and you can sync them so they come on together. Simple stuff, but it just makes it really easy to use. And I like the fact that you've got a proper scan strap, smartphone holder and charging pad there, and a waterproof USB charger. Good connectivity at this helm. There isn't lots of space to put loose items. You've got this cup holder here, you've got a cup holder here on the other side, but there isn't a huge amount of space at the helm itself to put loose items, but you have got those big drawers back here to put odds and ends, so it's not too bad. It's good ventilation. You have a window by the skipper, you also have a window over on this side. This area, I think it would be great when the boat is stationary, especially when you've got this sunroof open. You can lie there and enjoy the sunshine, but I feel like when you're moving along, especially if it's rough, this person will be okay because they can plant their feet up here on the teak step. But if you're sitting here with your feet out in front of you and the boat's moving along in rough seas, it could be a bit uncomfortable. You'll probably end up sitting down here with proper backrest, but I can see why they've done it this way. It is a comfortable place to relax, and it's by the window as well, so there's a bit of fresh air there. And then really it's this roof that makes this area, because it's full solid GRP roof, but it's a really big aperture So at the touch of a button, this pulls all the way back and just transforms the way the boat feels. Now with it over, you feel really well protected from the elements, but when it comes back, it opens this area up really nicely. And on a nice evening like this, get the sun pouring down into this area. So really you only have the central part of the main deck that's actually covered at all, because you have a short overhang, so that end of the boat is uncovered. This forward end of the main deck is uncovered. And it just makes it really versatile, a real year-round option, because if the weather's not great, you just shut the roof, pump up the heating, and off you go. And before we have a look at the interior, let's go up forward. It's nice and easy to get up onto the side deck, so you've got these two teak top steps. Under here you find your diesel filler is covered, there's a drain in there as well, so spilt diesel can drain away and not slosh down the side decks. There'll be another filler on the other side. These look like styling lines, but they're actually handholds as well, opposite the guardrail, which is nice to see. The guardrail comes up to about knee height on the side deck, but you've got these great handholds here, so it feels a very easy and safe boat to move along the side decks of. And they widen out nicely as well as you get up to the foredeck. You can really see how the bow rails spread out. Up here, sunbathing space, nice to see these headrests, just make it a little bit more comfortable. You can see this smoke glass here, and that pours light down into the saloon. We'll have a look at that when we go inside, obviously. Guardrails here with some cup holders built in is quite a nice touch. And it's a nice flat foredeck as well. It doesn't feel too steep, so it feels comfortable to move around on when you're coming up to do the anchor. Now this is a big locker, and it has nothing to hold it up, and if that's slammed down on your foot, you'd really know about it. So I'd like to see something to hold that up. And though it's a good size, it really is. Again, if it was compartmentalised, it would be a bit more useful, so you could put ropes in there without worrying that they get tangled in the anchor chain. And again, just something on this lid here that you could tie fender tails to would mean that they're not going to disappear down into the bottom of the locker. We'll come back down the port side, identical to the starboard side, and you'll spot that even though you've got that aft dinette, there is space down both sides of it to get up onto the side deck, so you can access both sides of the boat from the bathing platform, which is always really useful. It means you can get up and down quickly. It's a bit narrow on this side, but you can just about squeeze up there, so useful to have access from both sides. But now we can go down and have a look at the interior. There are more changes on the lower deck, where Bavaria's changed the orientation compared to the previous model. Before, you had a guest cabin amidships, twin guest cabin. That's now your master cabin. We will have a look at that in a moment, which means that the VIP cabin is now forward. Here it's a very generous double, particularly bright in this light oak wood. There are a few wood options, but this light oak makes it very bright in here, though it's naturally quite a bright cabin because you've got big windows with opening ports on both sides. And you have a hatch overhead, though it's covered at the moment by the cushions. But you'd have even more light if they weren't on, and of course that's your escape hatch as well if you ever need to use it. The only slight downside to this wide bed is that this side here is sort of caught behind the day head, so the person sleeping this side might have to disturb the person on this side in the middle of the night, but small price to pay for having such a big, wide, comfortable bed. There's a bit of storage here on nice soft close hinges, and you've got fiddles as well, so you can put items there and not worry that they're going to slide off when the boat's at sea. You've got repeaters for the lights and sockets down there, and reading lights. Now, it's nicely fitted out. There's some eye-level lockers with good fiddles here, hanging storage here with a selection of storage solutions. They've really tried to max out the storage on this boat. We've even got a little shoe store down there, light switches here for the cabin, and actually, there's a reasonable amount of space. Two people aren't going to be able to get changed in here, but one person can, and headroom is pretty astonishing. I've got so much space above my head, and that continues in the saloon, which has just got huge amounts of headroom. It's really brilliant. Makes the boat feel so much bigger than it is, really spacious and bright in here. And this is quite a traditional layout really, with the dinette opposite the galley, but again loads of storage, eye level lockers all the way around the perimeter here. This is a VHF. You've got an indoor VHF, then you have a repeater up at the helm, that's wireless. You've got Fusion headset down here of course as well, and then you've got the boat system controls down here in the screen showing you battery voltage, tank levels, etc. That's all neatly contained there. Then we have the galley, decent enough size, lots of little storage solutions in the end here, these racks down here. You've got plenty of storage behind the galley as well, you can line muggers up there. Again, big thick fiddles. Bavaria builds sailing boats, we know that, and they build practical boats, and you can really see that in these details here. These are all properly held in place. Top loading fridge is a sailing boat style addition, but actually works really well. If you haven't got space for an undercounter fridge, then actually that works really nicely. You've got a twin burner induction hub, and then good storage as well. These drawers here are all big, deep pan drawers, the sort of thing that gets forgotten on a lot of boats of this size. If you want to keep big pans and you've got space to put them. And of course you've got a single sink here, but that's quite deep as well. Opposite we have the day heads, which is also a shower room, nicely fitted out. Teak gratings, a nice touch on the floor. All this is high quality, looks really smart. Storage is okay. You've got a couple of cupboards, one here, one at eye level. Toilet there, and then it's a shower room, so you have the shower that pops out here. You control it from down here. But it's a nice thing to have two separate bathrooms on a boat of this size. It means guests aren't sharing a bathroom with the owner, and people can come down and use that loo during the day. Nice flat floor as well in this area here. There's a little step up here to the dinette, but it's completely flat. There's no threshold through to the guest cabin, which is nice. And likewise, when you come amidships into the master cabin, it's a flat floor, then there's a small step down, but that's to give you headroom. And now this was a twin cabin, a twin guest cabin on the previous model, and now it's a full beam amidships master cabin. And yes, headroom is compromised over the bed itself, though there is enough space to sit up and read in bed. But here, in this lobby area, if you want to call it that, headroom is really good. And it's long enough that a couple of people could be in here sort of milling about, getting changed, and they're not going to be on top of each other unless they want to be. Storage again is pretty good. They're not full length hanging lockers, but you have got hanging space at least, and there's two of them. So two people can hang their clothes individually. The little sofa here to sit down, put shoes and socks on, etc. Couple of big windows, so there's some natural light coming in here. But again, the light wood really helps that, and the use of mirrors as well. So you've got this mirror running along the bed here, and there's a really useful mirror on the way in. Opposite, what's a really nice ensuite heads, because this has got a separate shower cubicle. That panelling looks a little bit cheap with the screw heads exposed. They could maybe have done a bit of a better job with that, but a proper door here, which is lit as well inside there. The toilet and the sink, and again, storage is really good in this heads. You've got some under the sink, and you've got a couple of eye level lockers as well, and these shelves are fiddled again, so you can put things on there and not worry that they're going to come flying off when the boat's at sea. Really comfortable, well thought out, nicely designed accommodation on this boat. 4 adults could comfortably spend a couple of weeks on board, and they would not be getting in each other's way. Before we have a look at the engine room, I should point out that you can have glass doors on this boat. This section here, the doors go full width right down to the deck, fully enclose this area so you don't have to mess around with covers. That's the all-weather option. It's really low hassle. Doesn't do much for the boat's looks, but it is a nice option to have, and if you're going to use the boat all year round, it probably is going to make life a fair bit easier. Anyway, onto the engine room. There's a bit of a two-handed job to get down there, because you've got to lift up this cushion, you've got to hold the hatch back, and you've got to pin it in place with this bungee cord here, but then there's a ladder straight down between the engines. It's a bit of an awkward space to get into, and it would be a bit of an awkward space to work in. Actually, this ladder comes out the way, so that would make it easy to get over the engines, and once you're down the sides, there's a bit more space to move around, but between them here. It's a little bit cramped, but you can get to everything. Dipsticks both sides, you can get to the water strainers as well, so day-to-day service checks are pretty easy. That's the Bavaria SR41, a really compelling package that's full of surprises, not just the configuration of the main deck, specifically that aft end, or the changes they've made to the orientation of the lower deck to make the accommodation more comfortable, but it's a really enjoyable boat to drive out at sea. You expect a Bavaria to be comfortable and easy to handle and practical, but maybe not to be agile and fun and sporty, and also perform well. I mean, nearly 40 knots from a family sports cruiser is really impressive performance. And I think if you're in the market for a 40-foot sports cruiser, for the money especially, this should definitely be on your shortlist. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please click subscribe and the bell icon so that you get a notification every time we upload a new video. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one.